All right, everyone. Happy Friday. This is May 24, 2024 for another Ask Philip in the Wits and Weights Facebook community. This is something that we do currently every other week. It's a live on Friday to answer your very specific contextual questions to get you unstuck with your lifting and training, with your food, with your mindset, whatever it is that we can help you with. And again, it's currently every other week. So what will happen is probably on Monday, we're going to post the next thread that solicits your questions, and you'll have up to a couple weeks to submit your questions for the next session. And of course, if you want faster answers than that, we have other ways to do that, to give you more personalized guidance through coaching. And that's something that we do. If you're interested, always reach out. A few announcements before we get into the questions today. First, latest podcast episodes this week. In case you were not aware, I assume everybody watching this also follows the show, but that's not always the case. And you may have missed one that would be interesting to you. And so this week we had a couple quick wits. One was on the constrained versus the additive expenditure model. Very interesting stuff. It's the idea that when you when you do more activity, you burn more calories, but only to a point, and then it starts to level off. And this can actually be often the cause when people have plateaus or weight loss resistance. So check that out. The other quick wits was on my favorite macro and metabolism calculator, and most of you know what that is, and I talk about it all the time, and hence the joking at my expense in the group, which I'm perfectly fine with because I would rather people know about it than not know about it. And then the two long episodes this week, long but very comprehensive and valuable. The first one was a Q&A where I answered two questions from listeners who sent in audio messages. They sent in audio messages, so I got to play them and give them a shout out on the show. If you ever want to do that yourself, please take advantage of this, because I will probably 99.9% likely answer your question on the show, because we get a few of these, but it's not like they're flooding in. I do get questions on Instagram. I get questions through Ask Philip that are also valuable, of course. But if you want to be shouted out on the show and have your own voice played there, and then I can answer your question in even way more detail than I do on Ask Philip generally, use the record feature. Go to fanlist.com/witsandweights, fanlist.com/witsandweights, or look for the link in the show notes. And then the other episode this week is the one that came out today with Dr. Tiffany DiPietro. The Biggest Beautiful Movement, Obesity, Heart Health. Tiffany she's a pistol. That's what I like to say. She's got a fun, she's positive with a little bit of an edge, and she has a very strong opinion and lots of expertise about things. So we definitely got into some corner and corner case type topics, and a little bit of controversial topics as well, across the board related to health from a cardiovascular doctor's point of view, so cardiologist's point of view. So check that out. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And then one other quick thing for those of you who are interested or curious about what Wits and Weights Physique University has going on lately, we just released our big foundational course called Physique Foundations. And I just wanted to give you a sneak preview here so you can see what is in there and what you're missing by not being in the very affordable semi-private program we have that will help you with whatever you're trying to solve when it comes to your metabolism, your fat loss, building muscle, peri-post menopause, weight loss resistance, all of those things. We help you get unstuck and solve those in the program. But specifically, there are courses as well. And the one we just came out with takes you through all of the fundamentals of physique development, not just the science, but specific practical strategies for all the different common issues that people have: emotional eating, hunger, dining out, travel, vacations, refeeds, meal planning, grocery shopping, meal prep, meal timing, all that good stuff in Physique Foundations. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you're interested, again, just comment below this video and say, you know what, I missed your flash sale this weekend, but can I please take advantage of it again? And you might be pleasantly surprised at the answer. So that's available for those who are interested, but I'm only going to offer that today, Friday, May 24th. If you are interested, someone already took me up on that yesterday. A follower who reached out, and she said, the coaches that I normally work with, they give me these macros, they give me these training programs, and yet I can't seem to still get the results, and they don't seem to personalize it enough to me. Do you do that? And I said, well, yes, I can definitely do one-on-one coaching. That's more of a premium, very high touch, lots of time investment type program where for people ready to invest in themselves. But we also have this group program now that gives you all the tools to develop the skills of training and nutrition and meal planning and all of that. But it also gives you personalized targets. You get a personalized meal plan. You get not just the macro targets, but specific things to do for you and your body and your biofeedback so that you don't get stuck in those plateaus anymore. That's really what it's all about. So just putting that out there. And then the last thing before we get into the questions here is there was a post that I posted yesterday, and it's getting a lot of good engagement. And I just wanted to mention it in case you hadn't seen it. But I've gotten a lot of interest from women over 40 going through peri and postmenopause, looking for something that will change their situation because they're stuck. And I've seen it time and time again. And there's confusion around HRT, around what happens with these hormones and can we actually do something about it, how to train, how to do cardio, what to eat, what macros to eat, when to eat. Is fasting a good idea? Kind of goes on and on and on. And so I'm going to give a workshop on this. I think I've settled on Thursday, June 13th at like 7:30 p.m. Eastern is a pretty good time where a lot of people are going to be able to make it. So if you are interested in getting on the wait list for that so that you can find out about it as soon as it's made available, please do. It's going to be not just a workshop, but there's going to be a lot of really cool bonuses that come along with that. There's going to be a guide. There's going to be an action plan, like with a checklist so that you can address specific issues and some other goodies that I'm going to keep a surprise for you before it comes out. Okay, so let's jump into the questions. We actually have 3 really good comprehensive questions in today's Ask Philip. And we're just going to start here at the top with Emily. Emily asks, box jumps, what do they help with? Are they worth it? 10 reps, 3 by 10. Some weeks I fatigue before my reps are done. I make it to 7. So I just move to this tiny step. Like a short step. Sometimes I do regular box jumps. Sometimes I do single leg box jumps. Wondering if I should stick with it or swap it. I primarily dance right now, fall and winter. I run 5K training. Goals are fat loss, fitness/endurance, and power. I dance 2 to 3 days at powwows 1 to 2 times per month during late spring to summer. Fall to winter, I run 5K. Strength train 2 to 3 times per week. Cardio 2 to 3 times per week. All right. So Emily, my first question to you would be, what is your most important goal right now? You said fat loss, fitness, endurance, and power. And so I'm going to ask you to spend time, working on doing the work on coming up with your goals, your KPIs, your, what are the values? What's your why to get you in the short term to what you want? Because fat loss, endurance, power, strength, although there's overlap, there's a lot of mutual exclusion there when it comes to going after a specific goal and doing it the right way without doing too much, right? So if your goal is power because of an athletic goal, and you didn't mention specifically other than running, what the power is necessary for, I would say plyometrics like box jumps. The main benefit is just practicing power, although I would say most people don't need box jumps in their routine at all. That Olympic lifts, for example, like power cleans, could be a more efficient use of your time where you incorporate the pull and the strength. That's very much like a deadlift. It's the first part of the deadlift, kind of, with an explosive movement that develops the power without the negatives that come along with box squats. Because I used to do box squats all the time. So I did box squats in CrossFit, and, I did bench jumps, right? All sorts of jumps. I did like leapfrogs, things like that. And so can they help with explosive movements? Maybe a little bit, but power is a function of both the strength and your more of like your genetic ability to produce that power over time. So strength is where I would actually put more of the focus here, like deadlifts. But again, a power clean is a good way to do that. If you want to do box jumps because you enjoy them, like I think scaling back the reps is one way to do it, or coming up with doing density sets where you set for yourself a target of total reps, right? And then just take as many rest periods as you need. Rather than trying to do 3 sets of 10, maybe your target is 30 and you do it in as many sets as it takes. So it might diminish over time and you end up doing it over 10 sets with some rest in between, taking the rest that you need, right? But again, the question is why? Like, why do you even need to do box jumps at all? I don't think you need to, personally. As far as your goal, as far as your running and your cardio and your strength training, again, what is your goal? If your goal is like power and strength, I would prioritize the strength training and limit your cardio to like half of that, right? If your goal is running, well, yeah, I would lift weights, leading up to your training period for the 5K. And then during the training period, you might incorporate more of those runs and dial a little bit back on the strength and such. But 5K is not such a long distance that like most people can be competitive with a 5K, even if you're just doing a normal lifting routine. So yeah, it's like, what is your real goal? Because then you also mentioned endurance in there, and that's a totally different goal. That's the kind of the running goal. It depends. So long story short, I don't think box jumps are necessary. Are they worth it? Depends on your goal. If you're looking for power and explosive movements, I would incorporate power cleans in there, maybe other types of Olympic lifts if you have the aptitude for that and want to do that. And then the rest of it is just your traditional strength training and moderate cardio. And then your your pre-race routine to get ready for the 5K, which doesn't have to be too much volume since the 5K is not a very long distance. So hopefully that helps, Emily, with your question on box jumps, and I didn't muddy it up more for you. I'm going to move on to Nicola. Nicola's question is, I have a bulging disc at L4, L5. All right, so that's, I'm trying to think here. There's L5, S1 is at the bottom, and then up from that is L4, L5. Physical therapist has recommended avoiding deadlifts, of course they have, and loaded squats for now and I say that with an eye roll intentionally, and I'll get to that in a second, until I've retrained my movement patterns out of an anterior pelvic tilt. Hip thrusts are okay to train the posterior line. Any ideas of other exercises I could try for general strengthening with the neutral spine? I'm thinking supine arm exercises with dumbbells. Okay, Nicola, first I'm going to give it straight to you. Well, no, first I'm going to disclose that I am not a physical therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not dispensing medical advice. This is my opinion. My opinion is the best thing to retrain your movement pattern and general strength training with the neutral spine are going to be deadlifts and squats. So like, these PTs, you know what I want to do? I want to refer you to John Patrizzo. He's a strength coach, barbell trainer, who's also a physical therapist. I want to refer you to him. I want you to talk to him. If you're up for that, let me know. I'll give you his contact. He's on Facebook. He's all over the place. He owns Progressive Rehab and Strength out of New York State here. And he's awesome. He immediately in one probably free consultation call on Zoom will probably get you the answers you need, and you wouldn't even have to hire him, although he can program for you and he's very affordable as well. So I'm going to refer you to him, but my opinion here is I see this time and again, Nicola, where physical therapists, for whatever reason, they want you to stay away from the most impactful and helpful movement patterns, full body systemic movement patterns that are natural to us, like deadlifts and squats. And I think it's because a lot of people just do them wrong. And so they injure themselves through poor form, poor execution, right? And so when we talk about retraining your movement patterns, what's more of a movement pattern than squatting and picking stuff up? Anyway, that I just, that's my opinion, all right? Yeah, hip thrusts and if you want other exercises, I did come up with a short list of possibilities here. Bird dogs, goblet squats, carries, lat pull downs, seated rows, like all that stuff's great. But honestly, I think you should be doing squats and deadlifts. Now, you said a bulging disc. It's not like you've had surgery. When I had surgery for my bulging disc, actually it was herniated. I couldn't do any lifting for a few weeks, but then I immediately got back to squatting and deadlifting and started to train it up. You don't have to do it heavy. Do it, a little bit higher reps at submaximal and build back up. That is my opinion. It's not medical advice. Listen to your doctor if you have one, but a physical therapist, they're kind of all over the place. I would rather refer you to a guy who knows what he's talking about when it comes to training, and I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. So I don't know if I just, upset some people or whatever, but we say it like it is here. All right, Wyatt. All right, Mr. Wallace. It's been a little while since you posted, but when you do, you put the context in here. So this is like the gold standard of how to ask a question. Wyatt's question. How should I set my weight goals? How should I set my weight goals? Okay, this is a good one. He's got a lot of information, but it's a good one. I've been cutting since March. I'm confident I'm doing almost everything right, and my body is responding as expected. My data shows I'm averaging 2,150 calories daily, skewed up by date nights and social things. So you mean your average is actually higher than that on a weekly basis? Is that what you're saying? Or is that the average even though your target is lower? Okay, doesn't matter. Let's continue. My expenditure is averaging 2,600 daily. All right, so that puts you in a, let's do the math, about 450 calorie deficit a day, which comes out to almost a pound a week. 175 grams protein, 7,700 average steps, so 8,000 steps. Training 6 days a week, not dealing with too much hunger or stress. Height, 5'7". I was as low as 180 pounds last June. I gained 25 pounds in 8 months, so that was 3 pounds a month while following everything you teach. Nice. And that's a really good kind of lean to optimized gaining rate. 3 pounds a month at your size is exactly where I'd want you to be, to just push it right to the limit without risking too much fat gain. You will gain some fat, obviously, but it won't be excessive. In March, when I started the cut, my trend weight was 206. This is in pounds, 206 pounds. I'm at 195 after 10 weeks. So you lost 11 pounds in 10 weeks. Makes sense based on your deficit, about a pound a week. My goal weight is 190. So you're currently 195, your goal is 190, but I think I would still prefer to be at a leaner weight. The Navy calculator, calipers, and macrofactors body composition pictures, man, you're like me, man. You like all the data points. Okay. Place me around 20 to 24% body fat. Without being there yet, I imagine I would prefer to be at 15% body fat or less, which comes to about 170 pounds body weight. And that makes sense. So it passes the sniff test for me. If you're 5'7", and you are 195, and I know how long you've been training, like you're not beginner, but you're not, advanced yet, kind of in that middle ground. It makes sense that you'd be around 20, low 20s body fat. Makes total sense. And that you would need about another 20 pounds to get to that 15%. I just did a workshop yesterday in Wits and Weights Physique University, one of the many, many, many exclusive workshops I do for students there. And it was about body fat percentage and ranges. And so for men, typically somewhere around 12 to 17% is like lifestyle lean, kind of walking around, eat a decent amount of food, probably have a little bit of a six pack if that's what you're going for. Depending on how much muscle you have, the more muscle, the easier it is to have that at a higher body fat. And then below that, then you get into more of the athletic range, right? If you get to like 8 to 12% body fat, that's tough for a lot of guys to get there. That's more of an athlete. Below that is bodybuilding stuff. So it makes a lot of sense. I want to ground that for people watching that. 15% body fat is like a decent target for a man, especially a big guy like you who's really focused on strength for the most part, but you also want to have that improved physique. Okay, so you said going from 206 to 190, that's a 16-pound drop, will end up being 3 to 4 months. At that rate, going from 190 to 170 can take another 5 to 7 months. I'm not excited to spend most of the year cutting weight. I'd rather spend more time building muscle, driving lifts up, and having more room to eat. Don't we all? So 2 things I'm considering. Finish out the cut at 190, then maintain or eat at a slight surplus for 12 weeks and do another 8 to 10 week cut in the fall. Or hit 190, consider going another 5 pounds and keep reassessing until I feel lean enough. Looking for your perspective and insight on this dilemma. All right, you've already effectively walked yourself through the thought experiment and given yourself some flexibility. And that's really rule number 1. The way I would do this with anyone, client, or just recommending to you right now is if you know for a fact you're getting to 190 and you know you can get there, you've been trucking along, just make it happen, and you get to 190, that's a reassessment point. That's where you kind of bring out the blank sheet of paper and you act as if you are starting this process anew. And you ask yourself, based on where I am right now, what is my goal? What are my values driving that goal? What are the outcomes I have to measure to get to that goal? And then let me reverse engineer that into all the breakpoints along the way, right? All the milestones along the way. Okay, being very objective, being very specific, being very honest with yourself. And then you line that up with your schedule, with your life, right? And you kind of said that. So things I would consider are is anything happening in your life in the fall that would make the fat loss phase harder? Besides the psychological component, that's one, right? Like if you're going to have fat loss phases in the future, where do they best fit? Because you might find it's best fits in January and February, for example. The second thing is the reassessment is huge. So when you get to 190, you're at a fork in the road. Do you take a diet break and then continue, or do you continue? Or are there other options in there, Wyatt, right? Like one option is to significantly slow the rate of loss, right? And get to where it's a little bit closer to maintenance, but you're still losing. And then it would take a decent amount of time, but you're eating what feels like a lot more food for a lot longer period. That's an option, right? Another option is to go to maintenance for X period and then do another fat loss phase. You could do a more aggressive fat loss phase and make it short. Or do exactly what you're saying. You're just taking a diet break for a while. You're letting things recover metabolically. And then you go back into the same rate because you found it sustainable and you make it happen. So I just did an episode on this, right? It was called How Fast Should You Lose Weight for Fat Loss? So anybody watching or listening to this, if you didn't catch that episode, it was in the last few weeks, listen to that one because I go through the different scenarios. And for you, Wyatt, I can't give you the answer, right? I can't give you the answer other than to say you have to do the mental work and you have to write this down and figure out what you want to do. If you were a client, I would take you to the 190, and then at the 190, we would go through a whole reassessment, right? So that it's sustainable, it's enjoyable, it fits with your schedule, you get some gradual progress, and you're done. Now, you said what you really want to do, you mentioned this earlier, I'd rather spend more time building muscle, driving lifts up, and having more room to eat. Now, you can have that now or have that later. So again, you could take a break, do another fat loss phase to get to where you want, and now you're set to be in that lean bulking, mini cut phase. You're ready to go. Or you can stretch out this time to give you some more muscle building time and do the fat loss phase later. All right, Wyatt. So might be frustrating that I didn't tell you exactly what to do, but I would reassess when you get to 190 and then report back. When you get to 190, how do you feel? Could you mentally accept spending months after that in fat loss? My guess is going to be that might not be a pleasant thought to you. And so the default's probably going to be take a break and then do fat loss like in the winter, spring timeframe. Not even the fall, like give it time, and then winter, spring, and then you're cut right into the warmer months next year. All right. So that's all I have to say today for Ask Philip. Thank you again for bringing your questions in. These are the kind of answers you get. I try to get a little bit detailed. And if you like it, love the video, give the heart on the video, comment whether you watch the live, #live or #replay. Look for the post on Monday when it comes out so that you can put in your questions for the next one, and have a fantastic weekend. And those in the US, happy Memorial Day weekend. Go celebrate, have the cookouts, do all the fun stuff. Our daughters have some ballet recitals for 3 days in a row, which is going to be a lot of fun to see them dance. They love it. If you can find something that you love that also helps you be active, go for it. Go for it. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll talk soon.